I'm going to be doing a recipe today, and I'm going to be making some healthy cookie dough, as you could say. It's just going to be somewhat low fat, pretty low carb, sugar free for the most part. Just going to taste good, get you over some little cravings here and there. The main ingredient is going to be garbanzo or chickpeas, garbanzo beans or chickpeas, and I have them here. They're they have just been rinsed, nothing more. Also have sugar-free syrup. You can use any kind of sweetener. You can use some liquid stevia if you want that. You can use a flavored liquid stevia. You can use Splenda, Sweet and Low, etc. You can use sugar if you want. Doesn't really matter. You can choose a nut butter of your choice. I have almond butter about out, so we'll probably be finishing this off. Only about 2-3 tablespoons, so serving and a half, something like that. This is where it gets optional. You can have some. I have sugar-free chocolate chips. You can use any kind of chocolate chips. You can use crushed up nuts, whatever kind of texture enhancer you like. Also optional is pudding filling. This is sugar-free vanilla pudding filling. Just makes it a little bit thicker, gets more texture. And one of the things I don't have right this second is over there. It's just some oats, like 2 to 3 tablespoons of oats to give it some nice texture. Whole thing really not too complicated. I'll go through the process with you. The biggest thing you'll need is some way to crush up the chickpeas and make them homogenized, or fairly homogenized. And I have a blender or a food processor kind of for that. It says chopper, grinder plus, just a little Cuisinart thing, like 20 bucks maybe. That's really the only thing I've ever used that for. So it's the one use I actually use that thing for. But we'll get started and I'll see you in a couple seconds. So I've got my chickpeas in my little Cuisinart thing. I will have to cut it into 2 batches because this thing is itty bitty. And what I'm going to do, you can either use some kind of milk or milk substitute, almond milk, soy milk, etc. I'm just going to pour a little bit in here, get one for flavor, but also to give it a little bit of liquid. And so that's probably about one portion, which is about 1/4 cup, maybe a little bit less than that, not a whole lot. And then I'll just mix this up. So here we go, just put it on, and it's going to be loud probably, so be careful. It's not too loud. And see, it's going to take some effort to get used to, so you'll probably have to pick it up, shake it around a bit, and keep going. So it's pretty easy. Just make it so it's nice and creamy. You don't want any huge chunks. There's going to be a couple of chunks, nothing real big, but just make it so it's a creamy-ish texture. So now I'm back to show you the texture of my goop. So here it is. I'm going to kind of pull it out here. So it's still pretty thick, and so if it gets really thick, this is kind of the texture of probably a natural peanut butter or natural almond butter. But if it's too thick, you can always add a little bit of water or a little bit more liquid, maybe even some more sugar-free syrup if you want it a little bit sweeter. But it should come right out. And like I said, this is my first kind of batch here, so I will have to clean this out fairly well. Just scoop out as much as I can with the spatula and put in the second half of the chickpeas or garbanzo beans. And if you didn't know, this is also the same way you make hummus. So you can easily make some hummus. These cans were 98 cents a can or 72 cents a can if you go with the non-organic one. Just has more salt usually. But just put some olive oil in instead of syrup or sweetener or liquid and milk. Use the olive oil as your liquid, and that's how you make hummus. Spice as you please. Just a very easy alternative. As you can see, this texture is very similar to hummus. So the big difference between this, what I'm making, the cookie dough, and hummus is 1, what I'm adding for flavor enhancements, and 2, I will be adding some of that sugar-free pudding mix. That's going to make it a little bit thicker. I'll also be adding some oatmeal for some more texture. So I'm just changing the texture and the flavor a little bit. But the base ingredient, chickpeas, garbanzo beans, the exact same as hummus, which is awesome. Our second blending has, I don't know, it's stuck. It has a very similar texture. I did add a little bit more liquid this time, so it will be a little more liquidy. And I did that because I don't want it to be too thick before I add in the other ingredients to give it more texture. Otherwise, it'll kind of seize up, get way too thick. And then at that point, you can add more liquid to make it a little less viscous, but it's going to be much harder to mix in. And if I'm mixing with this little immersion blender, actually not an immersion blender, but this little Cuisinart guy, it's much easier to mix very quickly rather than hand folding it in with a spatula. Alright, so now we can add in our goodies. One tip I will give is when you want to mix things together, make a small indentation or kind of crater in the middle so things can kind of fit into there. Our first thing, let's just scoop some of this off, is going to be our almond butter. Doesn't need to be too clean. I mean, you can, but it's not going to matter since we're almost out of almond butter. Just scoop out some almond butter. That's about a teaspoon. That's not. You need about 2 to 3 tablespoons. A lot of this is really dry at the bottom because I don't like mixing it. So it's going to come out small chunks, unfortunately. Alright. But a tip for getting out lost bits of almond butter, use a spatula. It's because it's really good. There's about 1.5 tablespoons in there. And we're going to be done with about 2 tablespoons or so. Don't quote me on the exact measurement just because I'm picking it out with my fingers and a spatula. It doesn't really matter that much. If you want to track it, go ahead and track it, but I'm not doing that right now. I'm taking a break. I'm going to do that. This is a just vanilla flavored pudding filling, and I'm going to do about 1/4 of the package. I do this quite often so I know about how much 1/4 is. It's about 11 to 12 grams. So that's about 1/4 of it, maybe a little more. And then for your oats, a small handful. And it mentions a 1/4 cup to a 1/2 cup. This is about 1/3 cup. Right there. And then the best part is our chocolate chips. I'm a chocolate chip junkie, and I've tried really hard not to eat any of this before I put it in because I can eat this whole package easily. I do this to 2 to 3 servings right here. I mean, like I mentioned, you can be really analytical and mix and know how much you're doing, but it doesn't matter that much. So just take this and start flipping. And of course, it's going to take a while to go first. You'll probably get some over the edges, so you may need a bigger bowl. I just have this container out, so I went and used it. And just mix and mix. So I'll repeat the ingredients real quick. Chickpeas or garbanzo beans, same thing. You can use another kind of bean, but these just have a thicker texture than most beans, so that's why you can use them. Black beans or cannellini beans, black-eyed peas, they all have a similar taste, but the texture does vary a little bit. Some sweetener, I use sugar-free syrup. You can use Splenda, stevia, whatever you want. You can use sugar if you want. Sugar-free chocolate chips or regular chocolate chips, just for texture. And I love them. Almond butter or some nut butter. Instead of just using a chocolate chips, you can use crushed up pecans, almonds, nuts, raisins if you want. A little bit of oatmeal just for more texture. Again, you don't have to use the oatmeal. And then let's see, we have our sugar-free pudding filling. That is completely optional. That's something I like because it adds more flavor and it does thicken it up just a little bit. As you can see, it doesn't take too long to really get this all mixed together. And I love chocolate chips, so what I'll end up doing is after I mix all this, I will probably flatten it out, make sure it's all kind of even, and then I'll sprinkle a few more chocolate chips and press them down on the top layer. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be putting this into the freezer because I'm not going to be eating it right now. I'm still doing a little fast. I usually fast for about 12 hours a day, not because I'm doing intermittent fasting, but because I'm doing a vegan thing right now, and it just makes it much easier for me to fast that long. And one, it means I can have a little bit bigger meals because I'll be honest, the vegan meals are not as satiating, even though they have a lot of fiber. Protein is the most satiating macronutrient, so I don't get as full from the vegan foods or the plant-based foods. And so I'm just pushing it down here. As you can see, there's oats and little things kind of cropping up there. One thing that you can see right here, some of the almond butter didn't completely mix, so you may want to have more liquidy or oily almond butter. Mine was at the very bottom of the container, so it wasn't a very liquidy, it was pretty stiff. So like I was mentioning, just put a few more chocolate chips on there, just sprinkle them on. Just kind of spread them out because I'm anal and like things to be kind of even. And that is about it. I'll show you the finished product when I put it into the freezer. One quick addendum before I show you me putting it into the freezer. One thing that I do have, and I've tried this before, it tastes pretty good. If you want it more chocolatey, you can either use chocolate, sugar-free pudding mix, or you can use sugar-free chocolate syrup or just chocolate syrup. Really, the variations are limitless. What you can also do is, this is a completely different recipe actually, but you can do an avocado in there and mush it up. Avocados are great for texture, a creamy texture. But it's really not hard to try and be inventive with your ingredients and try to be somewhat healthier or to get a little fix here and there. People overcomplicate it, think that they can't kind of do whatever they want, but really just throw crap in the pan, mix it together, see how it comes out. Either it's gonna taste great or it'll taste like crap and you just try again. Really, it's all about experimenting, finding what works for you, because if you can't stick with something, if you don't like a recipe, don't do it. Don't do exercise you don't like, don't do food you don't like. Really, there's so many foods and so many different exercises. There's something, I mean, there is something that you will enjoy. It may not be as effective, it may be more effective, who knows, but the best program or the best healthy lifestyle that you can do, or the one that you can do, is the one that is sustainable. You can have the greatest program, the perfect program in food nutrition, but if you only do it for 2-3 days, it ain't doing jack shit for you. I hate to tell you, but sustainability is absolutely key when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle. Now that a little bitty health lifestyle rant is over, I'm going to go ahead and put this in the freezer. I'm just going to open the freezer up. I only have one hand right now. La 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 la. And I'm going to stick it right in there. And there it goes. Alright. And 2-3 hours later, I'm going to be going to the gym between this. So it'll be part of my post-workout meal. Nothing to it but to do it.